So I'll just be really confused. And if you don't know, at first glance, this sounds clever. It sounds like somebody uncovered a hidden truth buried inside language. Yet before we even get to the conclusion, there is a problem with the method, because this ain't how etymology works. A modern English word is being broken into smaller modern English pieces. Meaning gets assigned to those pieces. Then the newly assigned meaning gets presented as though it was always hidden inside the word. The interpretation arrives first. The evidence arrives second. The actual history of the word never gets examined. And this pattern ain't limited to father and mother. Here's another one. I see them all the time. The words get broken apart. Meaning gets extracted. The assigned meaning gets treated as evidence. Then the evidence gets used to support a larger conclusion. Different target, same method. The English word father comes from Old English fodder. Mother comes from Old English motor. Both belong to older language families that existed long before modern English spellings and internet word games. That matters because linguistic matters. Etymology matters. Language carries history. Language carries evidence. Yet presenting symbolism as linguistic evidence is where the method breaks. Now, here's the part we're sitting with longer. The attraction to this kind of explanation ain't shallow. It is not simply people wanting to sound deep. It's not simply people wanting to feel superior. A lot of this is connected to the quest for dignity. When people have spent generations being told that they're less, they came last, they contributed little, they lack significance, that they lack value, frameworks that promise restoration become incredibly attractive. A framework that says, actually, you were first can feel like restoration. Actually, you were chosen can feel like restoration. Actually, you were the source can feel like restoration. That is the seduction, not superiority. Dignity. The seduction is dignity. Superiority becomes the vehicle offered to deliver it. That's why weak methods can become emotionally powerful. The wordplay feels like evidence. The interpretation feels like revelation. The revelation feels like restoration, and the restoration feels like dignity. By the time someone questions the method, it can feel as though they are questioning the dignity attached to it. That's why these conversations become so emotionally charged, because the argument is doing more than explaining a word. It is carrying a wound. It's carrying a desire to recover what was denied. That desire deserves honesty. The quest for dignity is legitimate. The method becomes the problem, because when dignity gets pursued through hierarchy logic, the dominance framework remains intact. The symbols change. The language changes. The people claiming the higher position change. The framework stays, and this is where the trap reveals itself. What begins as a search for dignity slowly becomes a conversation about rank. Who came first? Who is above whom? Who deserves the higher position? Who is superior? Function becomes rank, relation becomes superiority, difference becomes position. And when dignity becomes dependent upon being above someone else, the dominance framework has already won, because the framework itself is still being affirmed as the model. The white male dominance model says worth comes from position, worth comes from rank, worth comes from being above. Many people reject the people occupying that model while quietly accepting the model itself. So the assignment changes. The target changes. The symbols change, yet the structure remains. And that is why these conversations matter. Not because of one word, not because of one etymology claim, not because of one internet video, because they expose a larger pattern. A legitimate hunger for dignity gets redirected into hierarchy. Hierarchy gets mistaken for liberation. And instead of dismantling the framework, people end up reproducing it. It cannot produce dignity. It cannot produce safety. It cannot produce liberation. It can only produce rotation. A different group standing on top, a different group standing underneath. A different story explaining why. Same framework. That's the pattern. And that is the pattern worth interrupting.